happy to advise, refer, or hire. That's what my goal in life is, especially for women. Sorry, Elliot, you have a good job already. But I'm happy to help your wife, who just actually texted me 5 seconds ago. I'm like, do you know where I am? So advise, refer, or hire someone you've never met before. Isn't that important? So this way we combat any kind of affinity bias, just hiring people we know and friends with, or go to the club with, or was in my class. Try someone you don't know who doesn't look or act or sound like you, or has maybe different lived experiences. Now that has nothing to do with why I'm here today. I just like to share that. So here we go. I was asked to speak a little bit about EQ. And I do that in communications. I talk about EQ in communications because, especially in this political climate, we struggle to find the EQ in one another. Well, what I think we're doing these days is we're struggling to find the EQ in ourselves. How can I dig deeply and be more empathetic when I listen? How can I listen with empathy and not judgment, right? There are certain issues where judgment is absolutely necessary, and there's no question about it, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But first I want to open with this quote. Wise policy begins with research, not ideology. And if anyone in this room knows Dr. Mark Long, he teaches the book Abundance, and it's a big deal, right? If you haven't read Abundance by Ezra Klein and Derek Thompson, please do. If you're like my husband and don't have time to sit with a book, you put it in Audible and you fly with it in your ears and in your car and you listen to the book. It's fantastic. It's scary as all get up at first, right? They're very open, honest, and direct about where we are, how we got here, and what's happening and what's going to happen, where we will be. But it's worth the read. And so I quote a lot from this book, Abundance. In fact, instead of church, where I go on Sundays is Fareed Zakaria GPS. And when I saw Ezra Klein and Derek Thompson speaking about their upcoming publication called Abundance, I texted Mark. And if you know what times Fareed Zakaria comes on Sundays, it was probably very inappropriate that I texted Dr. Long at 7:30 on a Sunday morning. But I said, dude, you have got to read this book. He's like, already on it. So I think he goes to the same church I do. Not sure. But this is a quote from them, and I want you to understand what it means. Because good policy is not about what's left or right. It's about what works. And people who are, let me try to move this so it's not off the screen. Tell me if it's more centered. Or is it not me? Well, it's cutting it off. Oh, okay. Well, don't worry about it. I can't reach. So it's about starting with the facts, right? Listening to other people's lived experiences. So their perspectives are going to be very different based on how they were raised, what they were taught, the life they've lived, their global worldview or not. Could be a parochial worldview. That's how we've always done it. We don't do it that way here. They don't know how Riverside works. I hear that all the time. Because I'm an ideator, a creator, I'm a new person to town. Now, I've been here 3 years, but I'm still new, and I probably will be for the next 20. If you weren't born and raised here, I didn't get the chip in the arm, right? So I want you to understand that if we start with facts, and facts are not opinions, they're not theories, they're indisputable. Paris is the capital of France. That is a fact, right? We can't just say, well, I feel like it's not, right? So if we start with facts, what we can then do is understand how those facts impact you personally, align with or not your values, and then start a meaningful dialogue or conversation about how that fact impacts you. Not what your preacher says, your mama says, your daddy, your husband, your kids, not what your teacher says. You need to understand how these policies and practices impact you personally, how they do or don't align with your own values. And when you're able to express that calmly and kindly, with what? Empathy and not judgment, then it makes sense why you might support a particular policy or a candidate. Where's the other person? If you allow them that opportunity to do the same, you will then see how it makes sense that they vote the way they do. And you have to understand. So when I was in Hawaii, my husband was at Pacific Command. He literally worked for President Obama. He wrote the U.S. Asia Pacific Theater Strategy for all things China and North Korea. When we lived there, Obama was running against Romney. And we are originally from Louisiana, if you can't tell. So I had a lot of friends who couldn't understand why in the world would she so support Obama. And I was like helping the campaign. Like I was really all in on the Obamas. Hung out with them on the beach when they come to Hawaii. I mean, they were my people, right? And so my friends in Louisiana were like, why would she support them? They're trying to kill our oil and gas industry in Louisiana. That's what feeds their children. So I was able to remove myself emotionally, look at the facts, and understand how those facts impact them differently. The same facts impacting me, who supports environmental policies and practices. I'm living in Hawaii. I mean, I left Louisiana when the BP oil spill happened and said, I'm out of here. I'm so done with all this, right? So I could then see why I would support the environmental candidate versus the other guy. Now, don't get me wrong, I would take Romney today in a heartbeat, but this is a political conference, so if I get a little political, too bad. So comms, we're going to talk about the importance of comms. You cannot have business, you cannot have relationships, you cannot have friendships, you cannot have a marriage worth anything without effective communication. So what does that mean? We all know that the receiver makes meaning of the message, regardless of the sender's intent. We all know that most communication takes place without words. We all know that the outfit I'm wearing is a message. What do you see when you look at me, other than she could lose a few? What do you see? There you go. UCR, I'm your walking logo. I'm also from Riverside, live in Riverside. I'm all in on Riverside. They did plant the chip eventually in my sleep. So these are Riverside colors as well. You'll always see me wear a Riverside lapel pin, and you'll usually see me wear the UCR School of Public Policy pin, because my role in the Center for Community Solutions is to try to bridge that gap between the two. So I love UCR. My PhD is from UC Merced, because I used to live down there, but now I'm all in on UCR, and I do everything I can to promote you and the school and the bond with the city. So remember, the receiver makes meaning of the message, regardless of the sender's intent. So when I say to you, let me use an example with my husband, because he's so fun to pick on, and he loves me, and he knows I love him, so I'm going to pick on him. He said to me, I said, how was your speech? He goes, oh, it was great. I'm a great communicator. I'm feeling really good. Well, what do you have to do when your husband says that and his head won't fit through the door? You got to take him down a notch. I'm like, really? Why do you think you're a good communicator? I mean, remember, I'm married to him, and this is what I do for a living. He said, well, I mean, there were like 300 people in the room, and I shared the new this and the new that and the initiative, and they loved it, and they gave me a standing ovation. And I said, again, why does that make you a good communicator? Anybody able to express why it does or doesn't make him a good communicator?
Because he connected with the audience and they stood up and applauded.
So you think that makes him a good communicator. And what were you going to say?
I was going to say similar, that perhaps people felt identified or connected in some way or form.
Well, I love you both, but you're both wrong. He's a great public speaker, and that's indicative of being a good public speaker. But why was that not indicative of his being a good communicator? Because he was not in a position to get feedback from each and every person in that audience to confirm whether his intent was met when the message landed on their ears. So communication involves feedback, always. You cannot have communication. Right now I'm teaching you. This is not communication. I don't know how you're all receiving my message. And if you're making the sense-making of the message or meaning-making of the message in the way I want you to, or I intend. So for today, I'll be a good, what? Public speaker, not communicator. So when you're one-on-one or in a small group setting, which is why small group learning science says 8 to 12 people is a perfect number, you can communicate and get feedback. So I thought we would have a little interactive exercise, because this class is much more fun than any of the other ones going on. I love you, Erin, but I can promise you this is going to be more fun. Yeah. I told her I'd send her my PowerPoint, but it's not the same without you. So I would like to have some volunteers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 volunteers. Come on, Charlotte. Elliot, do you mind being my token male? Come on up. Come on up into the front of the room. I need 5 volunteers. Come on up. There you go. I think we have 1, 2, 3, 4. One more. Come on up. I love this. I love this. All right. Now, I'm going to whisper something in each of their ears, one at a time. They're going to communicate to you what I whispered without using words. Because what? True communication is mostly without using words. Right? All right. I'm going to whisper this to you. Can you act that word? Here, I'll show it to you. This is your word.
Okay.
So act that out without using words or sounds. Oh, that's good. Yes, disgust. That's a very difficult way, to communicate that word without using words or sounds. Very good. You may have a seat. Thank you, Violet. Good job. All right, Charlotte. Your word is keep it clean. No. Yes, who said it? Affection. Correct. Good job. Good job. Good job. All right. Here is your word. It's not easy, but you can do it. Oh, good job. Good job. All right. I wish I had prizes for all y'all. All right, you ready? That's your word.
Oh, really?
You see a lot of that these days. The anger. I shouldn't have given that hint, huh? Yeah. But one thing about anger I think we should talk about just really quickly, not really part of this presentation, but it's very important for you to realize. My company, which is no longer, I had another company that's closed now, but we would measure inclusion using AI, natural language processing, sentiment analysis, and we would come across anger in messaging, like Slack messages or emails. We would also come across frustration, right? Why is anger bad, but frustration is not bad? Go ahead.
Anger is a response, and frustration is what you may be feeling when you're going through something difficult.
That's a very close, well, I would say yes to that, but what we noted is that people who were frustrated with the status quo. They wanted change because their goal was to improve or provide a better path forward or do something in a new and different way. Anger is very unhealthy to you and the team, and when your anger spills over onto others, it makes them sad, hurt, ineffective. Frustration is like, oh, we're going to try this again. We're going to change this thing and get it right. So frustration can be good. So there's hope dealing with people who might be frustrated if you're open to change, right? The Who Moved My Cheese book. If you haven't read it, read it. All right, here's your word, Elliot. I love that word, whoever said it. It's one word. Yes, who said that? Stand up. Nina, thank you. Determination. That is very difficult. He did a great job, right? I know you as well. He's the walking definition of determination. I'll say that. So this exercise was strictly to give you an example of how much communication can take place with your body language. So How do you listen with empathy and not judgment with body language, right? We don't want to be like, clearly I'm not open to hearing what you have to say. Leaning in, emphatic pauses. When things go wrong or somebody says something snarky or ugly, you might want to take an emphatic pause or a deep breath and in your head go, curious, instead of immediately responding. Because what you've done is let them set the rules that you don't like, and then you agree to play by their rules. So, using empathy, listening with empathy and not judgment. Let's talk a little bit about feelings, thoughts, beliefs, and attitude. All feelings are real. It's not going to make sense to you at first, but think about it. They may be based on something which is not, but the feelings are real. So when someone is passionate about something and they're trying to explain to you why your idea sucks and theirs is the best, you need to understand they really believe that. Even if it's like, and we know a lot of examples right now in this political climate where stuff is like, how could you believe that to be true? You know, you don't have to have, a 4-year degree to know that that's bunk. But people truly believe bunk. And we talk about different beliefs, vertically structured beliefs, horizontally structured beliefs. Anybody know the difference? Well, I'm here to tell you. So, when you're a kid and your mom and dad vote a certain way, or they take you to a certain church, or they're people of authority, they're people you respect, you trust them, you feel safe, in most cases, with them. And so when they say black is white, then you grow up believing black is white. And you have no need to question that. It's how I've always felt, it's what I believed, it's how I was raised. Do we hear that a lot? We do. So those are vertically structured beliefs, and they're in there and they're hardcore, and no one can change those about you. Only you. You might have what we call in the South a come to Jesus, and you change your own mind. But vertically structured beliefs are really cemented in there from a young age. It might have been your preacher, your teacher, your mom, dad, grandpa, whatever. Now, horizontally structured beliefs are beliefs that we hold that when presented with evidence, oh, good to know. And you change your own mind, right? We see a lot of examples of that. My husband, I use him as an example. He doesn't like this one because he's not proud of it. But when he was elected in the South, his party asked him to co-sponsor the anti-gay marriage bill, and his children were young. And he did, as he was told, which is a lot of what you see in politics today. And then he felt awful about it, especially the day his daughter came to him and said, guess what? I'm gay. And what did he think? Oh my God, I love you as much today as yesterday. I mean, this is ridiculous. What was I thinking? And he left the party, right? So that is a really tough lesson for him to learn, but it was his come to Jesus. It was his, he was raised strict Southern Baptist. We have a lot of those here. And he was taught a lesson at a young age and carried that through to an older age, but changed his own mind and loves his daughter, right? And now he's a very outspoken advocate. So let's just remember, attitude is not necessarily bad. I know we have made it a colloquialism. She has such attitude, right? I'm proud of my attitude. I'm proud to say I have a ton of attitude. But just remember, when you're dealing with people, that their feelings are real, even if they're based on something that's not. And you got to get through to that. All right, who loves this? Girl, that's me. I have never had imposter syndrome. I hear about it. I coach a lot of women across the country and in the UK who have it. In fact, men have it too. I don't know. I mean, the angel of imposter syndrome just passed over my door and didn't reach me. So I've always been this. But I'm also a Leo, so maybe that's why. I don't know. By the way, Dean Mark Long and I have the same birthday. So if he has, idiosyncrasies that you see in me, there you go, that's why. So remember, perception and projection. People perceive people, places, and things based on their own projections, their own lived experiences, right? So when somebody's being nasty or ugly to you, it's less about you and more about their own fears and insecurities and the way they project those onto you. So For me, I was actually just talking to Denise about this and Erin. I do a lot of work with women. Women have a tendency to, possibly because we were told to, mimic men in the work world in order to succeed. If you want to succeed, you have to be and act and sound and look and dress like Mike. I'm not okay with that. Why don't we change the system instead of changing me? And that's the work that I do. And I told Denise, I said, when I come across mean girls, y'all can come in and have a seat. I'm very easy flowing. Yeah, you'll enjoy this, but I want you to be comfortable. There's room. It's not church. Come on up to the front. You know? So I always say, let's change the system so that there are more spots at the top for women, so that women don't feel like they have to claw each other's eyes out to get one of the 2 spots at the top. Well, that's not an easy thing to do, but it's what I've devoted my life to doing. And I always recognize when a woman is being mean to me, and they are. For some reason, they're threatened by me. I said, baby, I don't want your man, I don't want your money, and I don't want your job. So I'm not sure what's happening here. But I'm here to listen with empathy and not judgment. And if they want to go there, I'll help them. And I'll help them learn who they are. I had a recent book signing event at my house. We had 23 women there. And I asked each one to stand up and tell me, who are you? And what did they do? They inevitably went into what they do, what their title is, what they do for a living, who they work for. And they talked well of their companies. And I was like, well, that's awesome. Now, who are you? Some were almost like, you know, and I get that. I didn't want to publicly shame them, so I was like, you see me after class, right? So, yeah, you've got to learn to love who you are, know who you are. We're not perfect. I'm not saying you'll be perfect. You must love the imperfect you. What is that song? I love you in all your imperfections. I cannot sing, but he's married to a hot supermodel. They have a ton of kids. Christy Teigen's husband. What's his name? There you go. That's the song. My husband came in when we first moved here. He came into the guest bedroom where we had a blow-up mattress, and he started saying those words to me. And I thought, oh my God, I love you. I'd never heard the song. I didn't know you, John Lennon. I was like, who are you? I'm so glad we moved to Riverside. This is a new man. He's like, you never heard that song? I'm like, oh. No, that's somebody else's. I thought you wrote that for me, right? Anyway, so just la, 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 let me think it. So, if you don't believe in what you're proposing, and I definitely believe in the work that I do, I've devoted my life to it. Since 2010, I've been doing gender communications in order to combat bias, and I've been teaching race, racism, and racial identity, trying to make people understand through some very difficult, tearful conversations. Race is a made-up social construct, right? When I'm in a C-suite, for example, at a Fortune 50 company, and those are the companies I used to work with, I would say, when were you first aware of your race? And all the white men would be like, what do you mean? And everyone else in the room would be like, well, when I was 15 and got my driver's license, my dad told me I had to put my hands on the dash if I ever got pulled over by the cops. Or the young women would be, or women would be like, well, my mom told me never go to the mall with a backpack or a big purse because I'd get followed. And the white men were like, what do you mean? What do you mean? And so lived experience was very beneficial because they trusted and they respected their colleagues. So then they were curious to learn more about that person's lived experience. And those are the stories that change the 4 Ps. Policies, practices, pay, and pipeline. Those are the stories that matter when we try to change the system and not the people, right? You have trusted, bonded relationships. People listen with empathy and not judgment. And instead of mimicking the white man over 50, these people were in a psychologically safe space to tell their own lived experiences, which then was mind-blowing to the dominant group. The dominant group then agreed to review policies and how they hire and the language they use for those new hires. So it's very important that you remember that, right? When you're proposing change, you really better believe in it. It cannot be performative because people can smell a liar, right? I can. Ask my ex-husband. So Two key principles I want you to think about. Yeah. He never sang poetry to me. Mistake number one in a long list of mistakes, not to be discussed here today. But I will say it's important to know who you are. And the two key principles I want you to take away from this, again, I reiterate this throughout every talk I do, is that the receiver makes meaning of the message regardless of the sender's intent. And you must try to use curiosity, right? When you're about to attack back, don't let them set those rules and then you agree to play by them. If they throw the ball at you, let it hit your chest, because then where does it go? You walk away with your head held high and your power, and you haven't given them anything they can then use against you. When you attack back, you're just fueling their fire, right? All right, let's look at Popeye the Sailor Man. Who in here remembers? My husband's like, nobody's going to know who that is. Thank you. Oh, come on. Oh, thank you. You know I'm feeling old by now. I want to read this because it's very important. We're going to start talking about negotiations. And Denise, I let him know that this is from a 3-hour presentation, so we only have 50 minutes, and what's not done, I'll send to them the whole thing. They can have it. Yeah, you can. There you go. So understand that you can't change someone's behavior. Whose behavior can you change? Your own, right? I have a theory, and I can't say it here because I haven't gotten permission to curse on campus, but my theory is fix it. If you can fix it, you do. If you can't, you know. So fix it or let it go, if you want to say that instead. You can't change another person's behavior. What you can do is listen and learn and empathize, even from their standpoint. I teach standpoint theory, right? The world as you see it through your lens from where your feet are planted. If you've never left a small town, there are concepts and things and lived experiences you would never be able to imagine because you don't know what you don't know. So remember that and know your audience. But first, who do you know best? Yourself. You must know yourself best. In the coaching that I do with women all across the country and in the UK, because she's cool, her husband is the chief editor at The Economist, the magazine. I love coaching them. Him through her, but still, they kind of are both like, hey, he needs to hear this. I'm like, get him in here. So remember, you need to know and love and respect who you are before you can ever know and love and respect the person sitting across from you. One of the best tools in my toolkit that I can give you beyond being curious and listening with empathy and not judgment would be, what is it? I taught it to you last week. You used it with the Native Americans. Exactly. For those in the back, he said, find out what's most important to the person sitting across from you. No, don't just memorize or cram for whatever. There's a difference between memory and knowledge. I want you to know what you need to know. That way, when you ask the person sitting across from you, what's most important to you, after you've built a trusted relationship, because why? You listened with empathy and not judgment, they will tell you, and then you frame your narrative around what's important to them. That makes for a meaningful conversation, and when the receiver makes meaning of the message, regardless of the sender's intent, you can get confirmation that it's what you meant, right? So know yourself first. Who's ever seen or heard of Rock'em Sock'em robots? Oh, there you go. See? Okay. Popeye, there weren't as many hands in the air, but Rock'em Sock'em robots, yes, we all know. Who thinks we all have a need to be right? We do. Who wants to be wrong? I mean, if I come to you and I say, I have this idea. Right, exactly. I'm not going to say it sucks, but hear me out. Right? I'm going to think it's the best idea, and I'm willing to go to the mat. But what needs to happen? Perspective. I need to consider their projection of fears and insecurities. I need to figure out what their lived experiences are, why they might not think it's the best, why I think it is the best. What is it colored with through my lens, where I was raised? So think about all those things. And remember, instead of the need to be right, fight for the need to be heard. People want to be heard and respected. And I think no matter where you are on the political spectrum or the religion spectrum or any spectrum, you can all agree we want to be heard and respected, regardless of party, etc. So, as Dr. Long knows, this is my new logo. And I did this because, can you see it? Can you see it? Ah, EQ. Can you see it? Yay! I'm so glad. I need to stop soliciting so much, because if you really could see it, I wouldn't have to, right? So there you go. So we want to try to communicate with empathy and not judgment, and communication starts with listening. And listening starts with finding out what's most important to the person sitting across from you, then framing your response or narrative in accordance with that. That way it makes sense, right? So emotional intelligence is a huge component to leadership, right? True leadership is more transformational, where everyone has a voice and feedback is valued. It's not hierarchical. Dr. Ron Loveridge teaches a class called Primal Leadership, which is written by the same guy who is the theorist behind emotional intelligence, Daniel Goleman. So if you can and you're interested, take his class. In order to lead with emotional intelligence, or EQ, which is the short acronym for it, you have to know your own emotions. Again, go back to know who you are. You have to manage your own emotions. Remember, frustration's okay, but anger is not. You have to be able to motivate yourself, right? Don't just tell me what to do. Have you done it? Walk the walk. Don't just say, I read it somewhere and it sounds like a good idea. You go do it. Have you done it? Have you experientially lived it? Can you be an expert when you speak on it? Can you be considered credible, right? So recognize emotions in others, and then handle relationships accordingly. Again, I always remind you, listen with empathy and not judgment. What's a good tool? We talked about it earlier. Not that. I don't think that gets us very far. What language was that earlier when I told you about body language? Very closed, like anchored, right? I'm right. There's no moving me. This kid probably has some vertically structured beliefs, right? So we're going to tap into those and learn what we can and can't fix, right? We're going to not worry about the things we can't change. We're going to worry like heck, actively worry, and then do more than worry. We're going to act on it with the things we can change. So I want to read a little bit from here because this is important. It's back to behavior. What generates behavior? A couple slides back. Thoughts, feelings, emotions, attitudes, actions based on those, right? So if you can get to know someone's thoughts and attitudes and feelings and emotions before they kick your butt, that's probably good. And that comes with effective communications, right? If you've reached the point where they're just not listening and they're ready to go to the mat with you, communication has failed, wouldn't you say? And I think we have a lot of that in this political climate. And look, I don't want to take any thunder from the panelists you had on the press thing, but I worked at Reuters, and I would say that we were all committed to finding the facts, understanding how they impact us personally, and then making our own decision, not based on our husbands or our teachers or our priests or preachers or whatever, and then giving merit to another stand. But in those exercises we did, we made certain everyone in the room did the same thing. What's happening now is we're trying to communicate with people who aren't checking the facts, or either are believing what they are reading is fact, which we said earlier, facts are indisputable, they're not theoretical, they're actual, provable, repeatable, etc. So just remember that. You have to figure out from where that person's feet are planted, the standpoint theory again, you know, what's the lens through which they're looking. If they've never traveled the world, they might not believe Paris is the capital of France, right? If they're watching Newsmax instead of AP or Reuters, then they may not believe what is a fact, correct? All right, so let's look at this. A positive attitude changes everything. Now, my husband is, anybody in here understand chakras? I know, I'm a woo-woo girl. I know, you're like, So I'm a heart chakra. My husband, who doesn't believe any of that, is a root chakra, for those of you who know what I mean. So he's like, he's a litigator. He wants proof. It's got to be tangible. He needs to see it to believe it. I'm like, we can co-create our own reality. Just believe. And I have been living a life of this mindset all my life, right? Someone on stage said something similar to win or learn, never lose. I think it was one of the keynote speakers. But she was basically like, if it doesn't go the way you had hoped and you gave it everything you had, look for the lesson in it. We talked about ikigai. I teach a class on ikigai. What happens in the Japanese culture if they break fine china, and it's symbolic, right? It's symbolic. For if things don't go your way, it didn't work out, do you just lay there? I mean, sometimes you need a break, right? But you can't just stay there when you lay there. Kintsugi, it's called kintsugi. They paint the cracks together with gold. They're stronger than ever before, and they wear their scars with pride. And that's what we as humans who communicate with others need to understand. We're not going to always win. The Rock'em Sock'em robot might have come after us, and we lost. But remember, your positive attitude can change your life. I really do believe in that. Energy in the room, I'm very empathic. I can feel when people are sad. I mean, more people have come to me nearing suicide, and I've been like, oh my God, let me help you. Which I'm not a professional therapist, but somehow people are drawn to what? Empathy, kindness, compassion. Now, I know we're not all sitting here going, I don't want that. Well, I'm going to make a message going, don't come to me. I don't want to hang. That's not on me. So, but just do believe a positive attitude does make a difference. It's not just woo-woo girl stuff. Again, win or learn, never lose, right? Anybody in the room heard the Native American Indian proverb around the wolf you feed? So powerful, right? It's very Jungian psychotherapy based. We all have a light self and a shadow self, or a light side and a shadow side. We all do. We all do. If you don't acknowledge your shadow self, like Anakin, remember? Whoa, that's what will happen to you. You will burn. But you have to acknowledge, right? You have to understand again who you are, what your weaknesses are. My dark side is impatience. It doesn't serve anyone, especially me, to be impatient. I come with a warning label like a pack of cigarettes. I'm like, the speed of Susan is not for everyone. And my husband's like, shouldn't you take that into consideration and maybe slow down? I'm like, oh, no. This is just letting y'all know. If you can't make the cut, it's because I'm not for you, which is wrong of me, right? I need to learn to know the audience and manage and bob and weave and bend and flex. So I have in this PowerPoint several tips on how to do that, and I'll share this with you in the notes. A lot of good exercises, which we don't have time to do here today, but in a workshop we would. Anyone interested can have that. So it also, it goes on to say, be empathetic, be understanding, listen actively. Don't just stand your ground. Anyone in here read Getting to Yes by Fisher and Urey? There you go. Oh, I brought you a book today. Remind me. One of my mentees whom I adore. I love you, CR, and the young people y'all crank out in School of Public Policy. You have an amazing man who leads by example. He doesn't just tell you what to do. He walks the walk. So you're very lucky. I didn't have that. I had to be the amazing man, right? Aww. Oh, you get 2 books. Yes. So just know that we have a lot of activities you can do when it comes to this section about how to learn to win or learn, never lose. Because there's a lesson in everything. And look, if you're the victim of something, you have no control over that. So we as humans feel shame, even if we had no choice. Cut that out. There are ways to cut that out. My telling you isn't going to make you cut it out, but there are ways. All right. I feel like we missed a slide. Well, I'm going to pretend we didn't. So, no is a full sentence, right? But is yes or no a healthy way to reveal, uncover, discover, be curious? Now, we know when to say no without having to explain ourselves. That's clear. If you feel violated or uncomfortable or somebody's crossed the line or they've attacked person rather than policy, in getting to yes, there are 7 ways to negotiate with principles, not positions. Traditional negotiation is my way or the highway, like a litigator might do in the courtroom. You know, I'm going to convince you this guy's guilty. Versus principled negotiations, you build a credible relationship, a trusted relationship, and once you realize you have common ground and there are some shared desired outcomes, then you can say, hey, my friend, I understand you have lots of time for this. I don't. I need this quickly. And you might say, well, hey, my friend, I understand you have the money to pay me more so I can get it done faster. And then you can move forward to the shared desired outcome. It doesn't always go that way, but you hope for that, right? Then there are times where you just STFU, right? You should just let it go. Move on. And you need to know that. No words. When your words don't match your gestures, or when maybe you say something, we call it expectation violation theory. Let's say you say you're one way, but people see you behaving the opposite way. You've lost what? Credibility, trust, maybe a husband. You know, if you're me. So remember that. Sometimes there are just no words, and you need to use no words. It's a strategy as well. Silence is very powerful. Remember earlier I mentioned the emphatic pause? When you're doing public speaking or even in one-to-one interpersonal communications, the emphatic pause is very powerful. People lean in. It gives you time to process what you've said, and they're more engaged. That's why you just don't keep talking and keep talking. The emphatic pause makes them feel seen, heard, respected. Now, don't go wander off down the road and having a beer in your head, because that's not respectful. But be there in that moment silently. All right. Think about others, not just self. Now, that goes back to some of the things we talked about earlier, right? How is my message landing on this person's ears? Do you want to come sit? You may. Okay. How is that message landing on this person's ears now that I know more about what's important to that person, or maybe their background, how they were raised? When my husband came to me and said, I want to marry you, I said, but you're a strict Southern Baptist, and I'm a wild, crazy Catholic girl. This would never work. Right? So I got to know him well enough this time. Lessons from last time, right? So think about others. Who are you, not what you do? I talked about the women at my book signing. When I asked them to tell me, who are you? Every one of them. Well, I'm a banker. I work at Provident, and here's what we do. It's a community. I'm like, okay, well, who are you? Oh, I'm a realtor. I sell houses over, especially in the, okay. I went through patiently listening to 23 women give a sales pitch for where they work and what they do, and didn't get to know one of them. So I'm like, okay, this is cool. We've got a lot of talented women here. Now I want to start over. Who are you? And it's very difficult for us to talk about ourselves. We're told not to self-promote. We're taught not to love ourselves. And I'm going to tell you, there was one comment out there I don't agree with. It is about others, but it must be about self first. Because if you don't love yourself and respect yourself and know yourself and think you're valuable and worthy, why would I? You know yourself better than I do. If you don't like you, I don't want to even get to know you, right? So you must put the mask on yourself first, the oxygen mask, before you can help others. That's a really great analogy. So I work with a lot of women, and look, these women are millionaires. The assistant general counsel at Microsoft, like a sister to me. She's a black woman who's also an engineer, super smart, kept her head down, couldn't afford to make one mistake, because we know why, right? If I made a mistake, I get another chance. If she made a mistake, there's never going to be another black woman in that position. So I said to her, well, it's time for you to be a general counsel. I want you to go talk to Brad Smith and put your name in the ring. She's like, they would never let a black woman be general counsel at Microsoft. I said, that's not what they say on the commercials or in the pictures or on the website or when they wanted business from my law firm. Yeah. So just understand different lived experiences. We need to get to know those and start to be equitable in our treatment of others, but not that we are equal in our treatment of others. Do you understand the difference? Okay, I know the younger people probably do. But I don't believe in equality where we treat everybody the same. I believe in equity where we give people what they need in order to do the job they're required to do or to live the life they need to live or sustain life, right? So the one area I would say equality matters is access. Everybody should have access to go through that door and prove themselves and do their best, but that's not how history has treated us, women and other minorities especially. Read Color of Law if you want a really scary book. I don't mean like Stephen King's It, but worse, right? So we're not going to go into this because this is an interactive part of the workshop, but we do a lot of the personality tests. You know, everybody in here has heard of Myers-Briggs personality tests. And who's heard of the Enneagram? There you go. So supposedly that measures your subconscious self, and the others measure your conscious self. And then there's strength finders. Anybody heard that? I love that. Let me tell you, if I had read that when I was young, I would be like way more rockin' than I am now. And I think I'm pretty rockin'. So Strength Finder says quit finding what you're bad at and trying to fix it and get better at it. Find what you're good at and be great. Become great. Go good to great on that. Another book you should read, Good to Great. Jim Collins. Am I out of time? Y'all need to keep me on time. 5 minutes, thank you. All right, so this again is a big interactive portion. I think we will skip this, but I will send this to you if you want to talk about outcomes and solutions and how to get there. Symptoms, issues, resources you might have or might not have. Don't forget, not everybody lives the same life as you. You know, we assume things. Okay, come to class, bring your laptop. I don't have a laptop. I can't afford a laptop. Where am I going to get a laptop? We assume a lot of things. I have 12 things that happen at holiday season that I send out every year to remind those of us who don't worry about a flat tire that can't get fixed, then we can't get to work, and then we can't buy tampons. Like, it's a big deal. There are people out there who suffer things that we, the privileged, don't even imagine. Again, empathy, not judgment. Ask questions. This is one of the best pieces of advice you'll hear me say today. Don't forget the other great ones, but add this to the list. So the Socratic method is super helpful in getting to know people, places, and things, right? What's most important to you is probably the most powerful question you can ever ask. Then you use the emphatic pause, and you let them feel comfortable that you really want to listen, not just wait to answer, right? So what's most important to you? And then you frame your response around that so that communication truly takes place with EQ and not just, okay, time's up, I'm ready for you to hear more of what I had to say. Right? It's an actual exchange. So the purpose may not be what you think it is. Like I used the example of when I used to be in business development, it was consultative selling, not product selling. I sold services and solutions which were customized, not here's a toaster, plug it in, you put bread in, it comes out brown. No, it was intangible. So I had to really create a story around the needs assessment findings of the client. Like what's important to that client. We're going to build a platform based on that needs assessment. Talk about needing to listen actively. Ask meaningful questions. No, yes, no. Tell me more about that. How did that make you feel? How do you make money? Go backwards, right? What happens along the way that derails your process? You can apply this to personal relationships too, but in my world, at this example, it was technology. I was the VP of sales at technology at State Street Corporation. So emotions, right? We did that exercise up front. Y'all were great. 1 minute. I got 1 minute. Just remember, emotions. Look at people's body language. Are they receiving? Are they like doing this? Because that's the problem, right? If you're the person you're sitting across from takes a small nap during the conversation, you probably need to maybe reschedule and rethink, right? And wonder, did comms take place? I'm gonna. This is important. I'll go back. Do you understand this slide? Attract people to you rather than pursue. Ladies, we know what this means. I was a heat-seeking missile for the badasses when I was young. It never worked out well for me. It did not. So then I learned to love me and be like, I can take you or leave you. So human condition, pursuit, retreat. And that worked out much better for me, right? And would for all of us. Let people come to you. Don't push yourself on them. And I think my time is up, so I'm going to skip that one. Resistance and what to do about it. Again, there's some great exercises in here. And if you are in any kind of relationship, whether it's with your teacher, your husband, your wife, your friend, your boyfriend, or a client, this is good stuff to know. I think I'm just going to flip to show you my pretty pictures and let you read what's on the slide. But understand, if you know Dr. Deborah Tannen, and some of you won't, but you should. If you don't, look her up. 10 times New York Times bestseller, Georgetown University linguistics professor, writes for New York Times. She's probably in her mid-80s. She was my mentor. She taught me everything I needed to know about gender-based communications to combat bias. And she did all the studies of kids on the playground and how they mimic some of the same behaviors in the boardroom. Really good work. So look her up. She talks about young girls want to build rapport, right? But in groups of young boys, maybe there's an alpha male that emerges and all the boys are okay with it. They're like, oh, Johnny said we should blah, blah, blah. But with the girls, it's come play with us. We can all, until Lucy emerges. Who was Lucy? Rhymes with Susie, right? I was Lucy. So when you grow up and behave aggressive or assertive, as I do, people call you a B. We call that tightrope bias, right? If my husband said the same thing in the same way, he'd get a pay raise. All right, we'll talk about these things another day and time, but I will send you this if you're interested. And the teachers in the room or the professionals who are in associations, you're welcome to use my material and reshare, whatever. I'm trying to change the world. So, good stuff. Thank you.